What's up, everybody? Welcome to the In Love with Horror podcast. We are your hosts. I'm AJ.
And I'm Kristie. Join us for a love affair with all things horror as we explore the world of horror films, games, and everything in between.
And y'all, we got another great episode as we always do, because there's actually a lot of things that dropped this week. There's actually a ton of trailers we'll be covering this week, from series to movies to even a featurette for The Nun 2 that we'll dive into. And then for news this week, we got some release date shifts. We got the first reactions of The Nun 2. Can't wait to get into that. And then Saw 10 even got some love with a nice piece that was in the Empire magazine. And they also dropped a new poster, so that'll be exciting to talk about. And then for the main topic for this podcast, y'all, we're going to dive into a very good question. And that is, do horror movies have to be scary to be good? So all that's coming up on the In Love with Horror podcast. All right, y'all, and as we always do, we're going to start off with what we watched this week. And both Kristie and I, we wanted to focus on one thing that we watched this week, and that's a film that just came out, I believe the day that we're recording this, on September 1st. And that's a film that's available on video on demand, and that's Chadgetstheaxe. Now, if you're not familiar with this film, it's a film that's directed and written by Travis Bible, and it's basically about a group of social media influencers who go to a haunted house and, are live streaming to get as many views as they can and just, have a heavy, strong online presence and just get their numbers up, essentially. And then, of course, things go wrong and things get crazy and a lot of horrible things happen. So that's what we watched this week, and we wanted to dive into it just a little bit. I don't know if you want to start off, babe, with what you thought about the movie, like what you like.
I'll let you go first.
You want me to go first? Okay, I'll go first. Yeah. So first off, if you don't know about the movie, it's filmed in the same kind of way as the most recent movie I could think of is Deadstream. It's filmed in a very similar fashion. Like they've got, they're doing like the selfie cam live stream style. There's even the chat in the bottom right, sort of like Deadstream. So if you're familiar with Deadstream, this movie is very similar to that. One of the big differences, though, is that it has multiple different streamers involved. So there's a group of these social media influencers in this house, and they kind of have their own setups running simultaneously. So you get some cool concepts that happen with jumping to someone else's stream, and there's some cool sequences that happen because of that. But it has that vibe to it, along with some elements of like missing, where it's very much like they're recording the phone screen, because sometimes characters jump out of the stream and you see them on their phone, like sending text messages or making FaceTime calls. So it's very much in that same vein of, instead of like missing or searching where they're recording, or host, where they're recording the computer screen, they're just recording the phone screen. And I actually really liked this movie. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I liked a lot of what it was trying to say. First off, I'll say the performances were really good, because I felt like the social media influencers were like legit influencers. They were super obnoxious, almost to an exaggerated sense, to drive home that point of, a lot of these influencers, like, all they care about is views. And, even in the midst of all this horrible, stuff that's going on, even when people start to drop out of the group and go missing, they're still like, worried about, oh man, our view numbers are going up. We got to keep doing this crazy shit and being disrespectful, or whatever the case may be. So the performers, they did their thing. Like, they felt like legit obnoxious influencers. And then it was also had some cool commentary about like how, viewers online, like the audience, how a lot of times people get sucked into, wanting to see bad things happen. They're getting excited that people are getting picked off and thinking it's a game, a movie, things like that. So I liked a lot of that commentary too. And then I won't get into any spoilers about the ending of the film, but there's even some commentary in the ending of the film about how we as a people will kind of jump from one horrible story and then jump to the next one and forget the other one even happened. So there's a lot of cool social commentary within it, and there's some of the jokes for me didn't always work, but there were some good ones that I did like that did make me laugh. And there were a couple scares that actually kind of got me, but I will say I wish there were a little bit more than what they were. Just for me personally, just wasn't enough. But overall, I thought this movie was actually really good. I really liked Deadstream, and I think that this, in a similar fashion, did things and sometimes even did it better than that, or maybe some things weren't as good as that. But overall, like, to be in that same category as a like social media horror movie, like, I think it nailed it, and I think it's like worth the watch. I thought it was actually pretty good. But that's what I think. But you go ahead now, because you wanted me to go first, so I just went now.
You did, and yeah. I knew you was gonna take forever to say what you had to say, but I
had a lot to say about it because after it ended, I was like digesting and going over some things, and I was like, this movie actually had. You might not realize it, but it actually has a lot to say about a lot of different things. So I was like, like thinking about it after I watched it, because I just watched it not too long before we got on this podcast, and I was like, damn, like this actually had a lot to say. Kind of surprised me.
Yeah. I agree with what you said. I thought the performances were really, really good. I think that probably holds the most weight for me is the acting, because I was like, dang, these people are really doing a good job.
Oh, they killed.
Obviously it is very similar to Deadstream. And I agree that there were some things that they did better. I don't like, well, I'm gonna get into it. Y'all just got to go watch it. But I do think it was some things that they did better, and then some things, didn't really work for me. Yeah. But overall, I thought it was a really good movie. And then, like you said, it was a good time. I was a couple times I was laughing. And it was funny, like, because you're reading the chat, right, with stuff going on, and like they try to make you think it's something is in the background, so I'm like trying to look to see if I see anything and stuff like that. So I think it was very well done in that aspect. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, they definitely like killed it with the chat, because I know we mentioned that with Deadstream how good the chat was, and I feel like this film did a good job with the chat too, making it feel like a very real chat. But man, those people acting like the influencers, man, that junk was hilarious. Like, even they would drop in their merch, like, oh, forget we got 10% off over at our merch store, like stuff like that. And one last thing I'll say too is that it also is a good story about karma, like in that the boy who cried wolf type of sense. So that was cool too.
That's true.
Like I said, this junk talked about a lot of surprise. Now, one thing I will say about these social media horror movies where they got the chat and all that stuff, sometimes I found myself like focusing too much on the chat.
That's
like
true.
Trying to read the chat, and then like it sometimes it's hard to bounce between reading the chat and actually watching what's going on in
that's true.
On the stream.
I can feel you on that.
Yeah, because this chat was active in this movie.
It was.
Like, they was going ham in there. I was really caught up into it. But yeah, y'all, Chadgetstheaxe. Make sure y'all go check it out. It's actually a really well done film. Had a lot of fun with it, and that's available on video on demand right now. So go check it out. Now, that's what we watched this week. So now we'll dive into all the horror trailers that dropped this week. And we got quite a few, y'all. So let's jump right into them. With the first one being, we got 2 teaser trailers for the new American Horror Story series called Delicate. I think it's Delicate, right? Yeah, Delicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And these teasers are very much teasers. Now, well, I guess before I jump into that, they put out the description for this series, and it reads: after multiple failed attempts of IVF, actress Anna Victoria Alcott wants nothing more than to start a family. As the buzz around her recent film grows, she fears that something may be targeting her in her pursuit of motherhood. And of course, this is coming on FX, streamable on Hulu. And it looks like it's going to be a part 1 type of situation. And it's coming out on September 20th. And like I said, these teasers are very much teasers. Honestly, I don't know how you felt, babe, but like they felt like almost like music videos. Like,
yes, I was gonna say that they did feel like music videos. But I really liked them though. I like the colors, like the pop. I know we got a little bit of that when they did like wasn't even really a teaser trailer, but you know, it was kind of like an announcement trailer.
Yeah, it was like character announcement.
So we
like
saw
posters.
a little bit of this before on that, but I really liked like the reds and the blues and the whites and the blacks coloration that they were doing.
Yep.
And it does give us a little bit of insight on what's going to happen, right? So you see her like laying on the table and she's got the pregnant belly and then she's running from all these things or whatever. And then there's like a bunch of spiders. So I'm not really sure what the spider thing is about.
Yeah.
But it gave me creepy crawlers because I don't like a whole bunch of spiders.
Yeah, all them arms and legs and
But it did look good though. They both look good to me. Kim Kardashian looks weird to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just because it's her, and in my mind I got like a mental bias or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think naturally most people are going to feel that way. Like when they see the character. You know, hopefully she does a good job, but I think it's going to initially feel weird, especially if the performance ain't really there.
Right. But I'm glad to see Emma Roberts back because I know she wasn't on like the last 1 or 2 seasons or
I haven't caught up, but I think she was absent for a little bit.
But anyways, I like her.
She killed it in the other seasons that she was in, 100%. Yeah. But I'm with you. I thought the colors, the artistic style of the teaser trailers were really cool, and they did give us a slight glimpse about the story. I hope that we actually get a trailer that actually shows what the actual show will feel like, because you watch this, you're thinking like, is this how it's gonna feel like?
Right.
Hey, look, I ain't trying to say nothing now, but I want to point something out to the listeners here. I'm just saying, because there was this whole IVF thing, right? And it looks like in that teaser trailer, like they're implanting something. It looks like there's some weird stuff in the syringe or something. But I'm just saying, on the show Evil, they dealt with something similar. So I don't know where they got the idea from. Well, actually, no, it was based on like another book or something like that. So, I ain't saying nothing, but we're getting another show that deals with a similar topic of, something happening with IVF. But anyway, I mean,
are you planning to watch this season? I've been off the rock for a while when it comes to American Horror Story. So
I gotta catch up. I'm definitely a few seasons behind. Like I can't even remember the exact last season that I watched. Let me see if I can pull up the like American Horror Story season list so I could see like where I left off.
I haven't watched anything since what's her name was up there, Lady Gaga.
Oh yeah, that was
the last thing I watched.
Dang, what was that one called? I'm about to pull up the list right now. That one was called Hotel.
Yeah, Hotel. That's the last one I watched.
The last one I watched was 1984. That's the last one I watched. That was that summer camp one. Yeah, I actually like that one. I think Emma Roberts was in this one too. I'm pretty sure. And I thought this was good. Like the whole like summer camp feel.
I thought that was another movie. I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, you're thinking of that killer movie. But no, this season was called 1984, and it took place in the 80s at a summer camp, and it dealt with like ghosts and like one of the satanic cult killers from that era. I thought it was a great season. So I'm a couple seasons behind. Looks like I got 2 seasons to catch up on. And that's the thing. A lot of times there's no like direct correlation with these seasons, but inherently like you want to watch them in order. So I almost feel like I want to catch up on the seasons before I go and watch the new one.
Okay.
But we'll see. But anyway, that's the teasers for American Horror Story Delicate. Y'all can check those out. Hopefully we get like an actual trailer soon, because September 20th is just a couple weeks away. Yeah. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing that they're saving it for this long, but we'll see. Moving on to the next trailer that we got this week, y'all. We actually got a trailer, like a full trailer for Goldilocks and Three Bears: Death and Porridge, which is written and directed by Craig Reese. Now, I want to say a couple podcasts ago, we talked about the teaser trailer for this film, and it was like a teaser trailer to the extreme. Like, you couldn't tell what the movie was about at all. But thankfully, this movie does give you at least a little bit of context to what's going on, and it looks like it has like the Strangers kind of vibe.
It does.
So it looks like Goldilocks and her three bears, break into this home and end up doing some The Strangers type of shit on the people living in this house. And that's at least the vibe that I got from it. Is that what you got too?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about too.
Yeah. And
I thought, I don't know, were they visiting the house or was it their house? Like they were going to stay there or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I couldn't 100% tell.
I couldn't tell either.
Yeah, because there's that part about the bowls. There's that part where he puts the bowls out and she's like, 4 bowls.
Yeah.
So I didn't
really
get
weird.
that. Yeah, I didn't really understand that aspect of it. But I think this trailer was better than that teaser trailer though, because at least I'm like, okay, like it's going to be
that's some kind of premise of what it's about.
Yeah, it's going to be some sort of like break-in torture type situation, like a Funny Games or The Strangers or something like that. I'm still not sold on Goldilocks. I really would have to see the film to see how I feel about the performance in full.
Because her acting, because she's like,
yeah,
whatever.
It reminds me of like, remember in the Purge, the one girl with the tutu dress or whatever. I forgot which Purge that was called.
Yeah,
she had a certain like. It reminds me of like
her.
What you say?
I liked her character.
I don't know. The performance reminds me of that. There's something about it that just
right.
It just doesn't like it. I don't know. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right to me. But I don't know. We'll see. I think after watching that trailer, I would definitely give the movie a shot just to see. But I wish they did give us a little bit more context. And because what if I'm wrong? Especially with the whole 4 bowl thing. What if it's not like a Strangers type thing? But we'll see. Hopefully there's some good, if they're going to go that route, hopefully the effects are good. Like they're going to do the whole torture thing or whatever. But yeah, y'all, that's Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Death and Porridge. Did they put out a date for this?
No, it just says coming soon.
It just says coming soon? Yeah, so right now, y'all, it just says coming soon. I'm not even sure if this is going to get a limited release or just be video on demand, but we'll be sure to keep you all posted as we get updates on Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Death and Porridge. Now, moving on to the next trailer. This was a huge one, y'all. This trailer did numbers this week, and I think you already know what I'm going to talk about. And that is the second trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's. As the time of this recording, it's sitting at 9.7 million views on YouTube. I think like that first day, like it did like a couple million, like within like 12 hours or something like that. It was crazy. And even right now, it's still number 27 on trending. And normally trailers kind of fade off pretty quickly. But one thing I want to mention, I did do a trailer reaction to this second trailer, so you can go check that out on our YouTube channel. And for Five Nights at Freddy's, this is actually one that's going to be doing the double release. It's coming to theaters and going to be on Peacock on October 27th. So you're going to have a couple ways to watch it. And I know what they're doing. They slick. They did that because they know these kids, they're going to be bothering their parents to watch it multiple times. So I don't know for sure. I'm going to assume that it's like a premium release. Yeah, you got to pay to watch it even beyond just the subscription price. If that's the case, man, these numbers about to get racked up because they're going to be like, oh, Mom, Dad, want to watch, I want to watch Five Nights at Freddy's again. And it's going to do crazy numbers.
Yeah.
But with the trailer, we just got more insight into, what the animatronics look like. They gave us, again, that story breakdown. We even got to see, like, I feel like, every horror movie has, like, the throwaway people in the beginning just to show, like, the damage that the villain can do. So we got a little taste of that. And we even got to, like, some prizes. There's a surprise at the end of the trailer. I know people went crazy for with the spring suit Bonnie or whatever it's called. But I think it looks good. Like, I think the second trailer like got me more excited for it. I know a little bit about Five Nights at Freddy's, not a lot, but I think Universal Pictures knew that they had a franchise that they couldn't mess around with, and I think it shows. I think like the suits and animatronics look good. The hopefully like the kills or whatever will have some. It's a PG-13 movie. So PG-13, so it can't go too crazy, but hopefully there's still some elements of some gruesomeness to it a little bit. But I don't know. I think this movie will be fun. What do you think about it, man?
You know, I mean, anytime we talked about this, I say the same thing. I'm going to be watching the movie because I know my son going to want to watch it. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean,
yeah, because I remember you said that he brought the trailer to you, right? Like you didn't even know it was out yet. Right?
Oh yeah. He showed me the trailer, and he's watched it 100 times since then.
Yep. And you let me know.
He's watched the trailer, and he's watched other people react to the trailer.
Yep.
Break down the trailer, and I'm like, you still watching videos about this trailer?
Yep.
So yeah, he's super hyped about this movie, but yeah.
Yeah, so that's how we found out, y'all. Our son told us that the trailer came out. He knew before we did, which is, lets you know that these kids ain't playing no games with Five Nights at Freddy's movie. But again, that'll be out in theaters and streaming on Peacock on October 27th. And I think that's shaping up to be a big hit for Universal Pictures. Now, moving on to our next trailer is actually a featurette that we got for The Nun 2. It was a featurette from Rotten Tomatoes and actually dives into a little bit of context to The Nun 2, like how it places in the timeline. We even got a little information about what the movie is about in a little bit more detail. And then, of course, they had like, director, producer, and actor interviews within it to talk about, the nun, Valak's mission in this movie. And they also expressed that the movie is going to tie into kind of all aspects of the Conjuring universe, which I thought was really cool. But I thought this featurette was excellent. I liked that extra context and extra background to what this film is going to be about. That we even got some additional like imagery that hasn't been in any of the other trailers. I thought was really cool. And just speaking on the featurette and the details within it, some of the details that I really liked that really got me hyped actually for this movie. I'm like, okay, this could be good. Is they mentioned that essentially Valak's gonna be looking for some sort of relic. They didn't say what it does, but it's probably gonna give some sort of power or something, right? And apparently Valak's gonna be kind of on a murder spree through, what are they, in France, right? Some sort of murder spree in France, looking for this relic. And I was like, oh, we're actually gonna get like kills and death. That's got me excited then, because we're gonna see Valak going ham. And they also mentioned, I don't know if you remember this part in the trailer, the featurette, babe. They mentioned that the movie will have like new demons or creatures or something like we've never seen before. So I'm like, oh wow.
They didn't say creatures. Don't get hype.
Okay, they said demons. Was it demons? Was the word demon used?
Yeah.
Okay, so new demons.
New ways of showing the demon. Yeah. And I don't know if it's the same demon or not, but yeah, they said new ways of showing the demon, which I know you're excited about because I know you were like, when we watched the Conjuring movies, your thing was like, we see her as the nun, and then that one demon that they showed us a demon. So yeah, I know you probably were going to be excited about action. That. Yeah, weird.
Yeah, I want them to look scary.
Yeah, but they didn't say creatures, so don't get all excited.
I take that back, y'all. It wasn't creatures, but it was demons. And there's a spot in the featurette where it looked like something was trying to come through the door. I didn't pause it or anything, but I thought it was like a creature. But
it might look creature-esque.
Yeah. But I don't know, y'all. This featurette got it looking kind of good. I ain't even gonna lie to y'all. I was like,
yeah, the featurette did look really cool. I personally really like the whole timeline thing, understanding the timeline, and then understanding more about the plot. Because in the earlier trailers, you don't really, get insight to what the main objective is.
Yep.
So it was cool. And what they said was that, like you were saying, she's trying to find this relic. And so she's basically go traveling and killing everybody who's supposed to be protecting this relic. So it's very interesting plot choice, I think. So, I mean, hopefully it has some significance or purpose and not just them. Because, I showed you that like picture the other day where it had like WB milking this cow and the Conjuring was the cow.
Yeah.
And the cow was like super skinny.
Yep.
So I don't know. As long as it has some purpose, and I know how in the featurette James Wan does say, it's supposed to connect to the other parts of the Conjuring universe.
Yes. Yep.
So as long as it does do that, I think I'll enjoy it even more. And it's not just a purposeless film and they just said, oh, we're just going to make her kill people and go find a relic. Because that's kind of how I felt about the original Nun. Like, it wasn't really a point to it, you know what I'm saying? To me, personally. So, I don't know. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm hoping that to hear James Wan say it himself about this movie having a larger connection to literally all characters within the Conjuring franchise, to hear it come from his mouth, that has me kind of excited. I'm like, okay. And the fact that they have him in the interview gives me a little bit more hope, because then that makes me feel like he has more involvement. If he's actually in these interviews talking about the story and all that, hopefully he had a little bit more involvement than in some of the other films where he's just kind of like a backseat producer.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll actually revisit The Nun 2, y'all, later in the podcast, because one of our news stories is regarding the first reactions that have come out for the film. So make sure you keep listening to the podcast, because we'll talk about that later. But that is The Nun 2 featurette. And again, it's some additional info. I don't think I said this when we started this segment here. The Nun 2 is being directed by Michael Chavez. It's being written by Akilah. Is it Akilah? Make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Yeah, it's being written by Akilah Cooper, Ian Goldberg, and Richard Nyong, and is hitting theaters on September 8th. We right there, y'all. It's a week away. And I did want to mention that we do have a Conjuring Universe ranked video that'll be dropping at the beginning of the week that The Nun 2 releases. It'll probably drop on either Monday or Tuesday, so make sure to look out for that. Now, moving on to the next trailer that dropped this week. It's actually for a film it's a South Korean film that's already come out in South Korea, I believe, earlier this year, but it's finally getting a Western release, and that's the film Gangnam Zombie. Now, the film's about... Oh, let me rephrase this as I'm diving into the synopsis. The synopsis reads, soon after previously normal people begin viciously attacking other citizens in Seoul's wealthy Gangnam district, the zombie population grows exponentially and spreads throughout the region. Now, long after injuries force him to quit the national taekwondo team, an elite former athlete is given one more opportunity to use his talent on behalf of his country as he takes on one final match, this time against terrifying hordes of the undead. It's being directed by Lee Soo-seong, and the Western release will be digital and Blu-ray on September 26th. Now, regarding this film, it's very interesting, y'all, because if you've never heard of it, you've never seen the trailer, it's like a martial arts movie with zombies. This dude is literally conducting martial arts.
Doing karate out here.
Whooping these zombies' ass with taekwondo. Like, just kicking them and all that stuff.
It's so funny, right?
It is a little, like, I don't think we've ever seen anything like it. So it is kind of funny to look at. But I think that concept is cool. Like, if he actually does some fire stuff, like, it could come out really cool.
I think what's making it funny for me is the music that they use in the video the trailer. So it's like, it sounds like Mortal Kombat music, and so he's doing these taekwondo moves, and then you got the Mortal Kombat music in the background. It's just hilarious.
It is like a video game. It's got that like video gamey vibe to it. Yeah. Now, I do want to say this. That, like I said, it already came out in South Korea already, I believe, earlier this year. And I will warn you, the ratings are not great. But hey, that doesn't mean that you might not like it. So you gotta give it that opportunity, because I think that the concept is cool. Just maybe the execution isn't great, but maybe there's some cool fight scenes. Because sometimes a movie can be bad, but if the fighting is fire, like, you at least got a reason to watch it, and that's the fighting, the action. But yeah, y'all gotta see this trailer.
Bruce Lee against zombies.
Yeah, you gotta see this trailer, y'all. It is literally like,
it's very interesting.
I'm not familiar with the actor, so I don't know if he is a famous martial artist actor in South Korea. That I'm not sure of. But it really is like martial arts versus zombies, like the movie. So make sure y'all watch it, man, because y'all got to see it if you've never seen it. And I'm interested to check it out, just because I just don't think I've ever seen anything like it. The zombies, I will say, do have that like the sadness slash Train to Busan slash 28 Days Later. Like they're fast.
Yeah.
They look kind of rabbit, and their eyes are almost like demonic, like they're black eyes, and almost look like one of them
the sadness people
had like vampire teeth or something.
Yeah, one of them did have like fangs.
Yeah, he did. So I don't know, y'all. It could be interesting. Maybe the special effects will be pretty good. But again, that's coming on digital and Blu-ray in the West finally on September 26th. Now moving on, we got the next trailer we're talking about. Is the last trailer for this segment, and that is a Netflix film called Bodies. Now, Bodies is about 4 detectives living in 4 different eras of time, and they find the body of the same murder victim in London's Whitechapel. They soon come to realize their investigations have them central to a mysterious conspiracy spanning over 150 years. Now, it's being directed by Marco Cruz-Paintner, who did The Lazarus Project, and Hao-Lu Wang, who did an episode of Doctor Who and a bunch of shorts. It's being written by Paul Tamalin, who's done a few episodes of Torchwood and Shameless, and Danazia Small, who's done a few episodes of Gangs of London. And I gotta say, I didn't give you all the date. It's coming on Netflix on October 19th. So it's another October movie to add to y'all's list. And I actually like this trailer a lot. I thought the concept is like cool as hell. This idea of the same murder victim across different times and some weird conspiracy theory. Like, if the mystery plays out really good and it unravels in a great pace throughout the film, I think this will be a very fun and interesting movie to watch. There's no hints, I don't think, within the trailer of what could be going on, which I think is exciting because then, I like movies that keep you guessing throughout where you're trying to figure out, coming up with theories along the way of like, okay, I bet you this is what's happening. So I don't know. I think this looked good. What do you think about the trailer?
Yeah, I thought it looked super interesting. I really liked the whole idea of, the conspiracy theory, like you said, over a span of time. Definitely very intriguing concept. So for that alone, I would like to watch it to see what's actually going on. But it is actually a series. So in my notes where I have like the 7 episodes, 3 episodes, that was referring to the series. So it's going to be 10 episodes.
It's a series. Okay, my bad.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's 10 episodes. So I'm wondering if when we watch the series, will we find out in this season what's happening? Or will it be like From, where you never find out what actually happens?
Yeah, that does. Now that I realize it's a series, I thought it was a film, y'all, but it's a series.
Yeah.
That kind of like lowers my hype just a little bit. Because you do run into that issue where they don't fully resolve the story because they're trying to milk it. And
then, you never know what could happen because it could be like a situation with Archive 81, which I'm always going to talk about until they bring it back. But we didn't get a conclusion and they didn't renew it. And I'm so mad. So like what happens if something like this happens where you don't actually know what the answers are? You know what I'm saying? Because it doesn't say it's a limited series. It just says it's a series. So
and I feel like
as though we might not get a conclusion.
Yeah. And I feel like that's the importance of having at least some sort of conclusion to the first season because you don't know what could happen next. Yeah. And when you leave it off like that, it just, God, there's so many shows that's happened to, especially in the streaming era. But the biggest victim that we talk about is Archive 81. So I'm hoping it's not one of those situations. And they, to me, it's better to just give us the full closure. And then if the story hits, add on to it. Like if it becomes popular, make a second season and expand it, but close it off in the first season. You see what I'm saying? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Or it could become, I'm thinking about Fringe and how, like, it was so good, man. Like, and then we got answers, but then, like you said, they added on to it. But eventually it just got to the point where it was like they were just making up stuff and it was just going way too far. Yeah. So you got to find like the medium. So between those two extremes, I guess.
Yeah. The issue with Fringe was there was a main throughput main story. Yeah. That finally hit in its conclusion in the 4th or 5th season.
Yeah.
And that's when the show fell off because they didn't really know what to do now that the full reveal has played out. So hopefully that is not that this body show isn't a victim of that, and they just give us the full conclusion, and then they decide to continue. They just expand. They can just expand on the theory or just create some new theory or whatever, Yeah. But that series is called Bodies, y'all, and it's coming to Netflix on October 19th. I'm just excited because it's another thing to add to the October horror watch list. But that actually closes it out for us for our trailers portion of the podcast. Now we'll move on to all the good horror news that dropped this week. And starting us off this week is all about The Exorcist Believer. And I actually did a TikTok on this today. And it's kind of wild. So The Exorcist Believer has been pushed up a week and it's now releasing on October 6th. And what happened was AMC announced the Taylor Swift concert movie was going to drop that same weekend of the original date of October 13th. Reading from it's not an article, but the writer John Squires from Bloody Disgusting put out a tweet and he said, "The power of Taylor Swift compels you," which I thought was pretty clever. and he's right, because hey, look, they Universal, Blumhouse, and all of them. I said this on TikTok. They saw that Taylor Swift announcement and look, we can't compete with those Swift fans. It ain't gonna happen, and it's gonna cannibalize a lot of the sales for The Exorcist. And I saw this on the article that Taylor Swift thing had already did like 10 mil in pre-sales or something crazy.
It's much higher than that now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was a smart. Hey, look, that was a smart move to bump it up a week because you don't want anything like that to eat into your potential revenue. I'm cool with it because it just gives us the film, a week earlier. But did you want to add anything to this, Beth?
Not really. I was just gonna say there was another movie that was also slated for that same date that moved up to, but I can't remember what it was. But I just think it's so funny that everybody's like, "Oh, we can't deal with Taylor Swifties, so we got to move our stuff out the way." But yeah, and then somebody commented on your TikTok and they were like, "Oh, because it was Friday the 13th, and so they thought it would be like the perfect time to go watch a horror movie." But it's cool. Like you said, we get to watch it a little bit earlier, so it's all good.
Yep. Yeah, and I agree. That is the cool takeaway from this, is just say it's coming sooner. Now all of our listeners know how we sit on this. The trailer wasn't that great to us. Hopefully, we'll get a new trailer before the release that gets us a little bit more excited. I mean, hey, look, we're gonna watch it out of the way and we're gonna hope for the best. But now we're gonna be watching it on October 6th.
Yeah.
All right, now moving on to the next piece of news. We're diving back into The Nun 2, and I believe it was just the social media embargo that went up this week. So we actually had a lot of critics, journalists, content creators who were allowed to put out their social media reactions to The Nun 2, because they got to see, what would you call it? Press, they got the press invites to watch the film. And I'm reading off of Screen Rant, who has actually compiled a lot of the X or Twitter posts, or whatever you want to call the platform right now, but they compiled a lot of responses. And I'll read through some of those just so y'all can see. But hey, look, off rip, it sounded pretty good so far. So we'll dive into the first social media reaction, pulling it from Twitter. And it's coming from BJ Colangio. And they said, "Enjoyed The Nun 2 more than the first, and a few scares had me jumping in my seat. Storm Reed is a welcome addition to the Conjuring universe. Even if the story felt like 3 different films fighting for the main plot at times, still had a blast, and Bonnie Aarons is a treasure." And then we've got a tweet from Shannon McGrew, and they said, "The Nun 2 is so extra and goes so hard that now I'm instantly obsessed, and I will not be talking about anything else for for the foreseeable future. Bravo, Akila Cooper and Michael Chavez. That's some good praise right there, y'all.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And then we got a tweet from Mama's Geeky, and it reads, "The Nun 2 is infinitely better than the first film. It's scarier and much more intense. This is what I wanted out of the first one, which was too heavy and bogged down with lore. Now we get to have fun with this terrifying villain and stay for the mid-credits scene." So this tweet has a lot to unpack. One, we're getting a mid-credits scene, which is dope. And that makes me feel like this mid-credits scene could actually have some like plot. Connection. Like, because sometimes they have those like just clips of like the actual cases okay. Gotcha. I think Animal Creation had the doll just like turn their head, but maybe this one has a little bit more implication to the wider story of the Conjuring universe. But to hear that, this is what they were hoping the first one would be like, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear that Valak is going ham and is actually scarier in this film. We got a tweet here from Jermaine Lasayer, and it reads, "The Nun 2 is a super solid horror sequel. It's got two good stories that intersect into a fantastic third act, which is amazing until it loses focus just a bit right at the end. That misstep aside, it's got awesome scares, effects, and Sister Irene is legit a legend." So we're getting praise for Sister Irene.
Because she was not that great in The Nun.
Hey, look.
Something moved over there. Scared me.
It scared you a little bit. Yeah, you're talking about The Nun now. It's going to be a little scary.
See?
We got a tweet from La Studio Matthias, and it reads, "I just saw The Nun 2. It's gore, moving, and terrifying." I think they meant gory. It's gory, moving, and terrifying. The images shot in some of these French locations that I can't pronounce are super beautiful. Pure adrenaline. A surprise awaits you at the end of the film. It was better than the first. Sounded real good.
I mean, of course it has to be better than the first one because the first one was trash. So I don't know.
Yep. And the last, you're right though, because the first film is setting the bar like so low that I think they could have done anything and it would have been better.
Yep, exactly.
The last tweet I'll read is actually coming from Perry Nemiroff, and it reads, "The Nun 2 is a rock-solid new installment of the Conjuring verse. Yet again..." Okay,
I'm sorry. I don't want to cut you off, but I don't listen to nothing she got to say.
Well, look, if it's something positive, so far the remarks have been pretty good about The Nun 2. So let's see.
Okay.
Yet again, Taisa Farmiga and Jonas Bloquet are winning leads and love the fresh energy Storm Reed brings to the series. Eager for another watch to overanalyze new additions to the lore, as I often do, but... where did I get cut off at? Because I had to expand it.
You said but.
But on the first go around, thought the colliding storylines worked quite well. Just like with the first Nun, the eerie atmosphere is hugely effective, and there's a bunch of strong set pieces.
See, she liked the first one.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. The magazine rack scene featured in the trailer is great, but there's a certain something in the third act that wound up being the favorite for me. Willing to bet you'll be able to guess what it is. Actually, I'll read one more then, since you said you don't want to hear nothing she got to say. We'll read one more.
Oh, Lord.
All right. This last tweet is coming from Pick Your Brian, Brian Davids, and it reads, The Nun 2 is infinitely better than the first installment. The characters of Irene and Maurice are explored in a more meaningful way, and the greater Conjuring universe is impacted rather significantly. That's huge, because talking about the featurette we talked about earlier, they mentioned how this film will have, all the connective tissue to wrap around the entire Conjuring universe. So, but you hear all those reactions, baby?
Yes,
what do you think? What do you think?
I mean, I was excited about it when I first saw the trailer.
Yeah.
I lost my excitement when I found out who was directing it. But I'm still going to watch it, obviously. Yeah. And I'm going to go in with low expectations. So if it does well, then I'll be like, oh, this is really great. And if it doesn't, then I'm like, well, I told you.
Yep.
What do you think after reading those reactions?
This gets me more excited, honestly, to hear all those good reactions.
Can you hear the train?
Nah, I can't hear it. But to hear all those good reactions, it just got me more excited. And especially to hear, like, there's that one that talked about how this is what they wanted from the first film. And then see when you combine the featurette that we talked about earlier with these tweets, and you combine them together, to me, it's sounding like the movie that The Nun 1 was supposed to be. We're getting Valak probably in full force, going ham, killing people. It sounds like we're going to get a more interesting story, a story that actually ties into the larger Conjuring universe. So we're getting probably a lot of lore, a lot of connections to other characters. It's going to expand things. And it just sounds interesting. The Nun 1 just was boring as hell, and it wasn't interesting. This movie
so boring and
sounds interesting. It sounds more scary. It sounds like we're actually going to, have some mystery. And then they're talking about some crazy shit that goes down in the third act, because the third act was just dumb in the Nun 1. So I don't know. I'm getting a little excited. I'm going to be, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like I'm going to be optimistic, but it's going to be cautiously optimistic. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. That's how I feel too.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the Nun 2, y'all. First reactions are sounding pretty good. I know I'm getting excited. We're only a week away. And just to reiterate, we're going to be dropping a video on our YouTube. And we went through and rewatched all the Conjuring universe films, and we ranked them. So be on the lookout for that video coming Monday or Tuesday. Now, moving on to our next news story. It's all about Talk to Me, y'all. And apparently that they had prequel clips posted online, and they were removed. So let's dive into that a little bit. So apparently, and we've seen this news story before, and I think we even talked about it on our podcast, that the directors of Talk to Me actually filmed some different like little mini shorts, like little mini clips that provide some backstory, like almost like a prequel story to who was it? Duckett. Yeah, to Duckett. And apparently they actually posted those clips online on like this like a throwaway account. And this kind of speaks to the nature of the movie, but I guess the clips felt real enough that they were getting taken down because they were seen as violent and bullying. And I think they said they posted it actually a few times, but every single time it got taken down, and then they just decided to not post it anymore. But it makes me wonder if like somebody online, some like real tech person can go online somehow and find those clips.
I'm sure somebody could.
Somebody could probably do it. I'm sure they will eventually. But I'd be curious to see what those clips contain, because they didn't go into any specific details about what those clips were, just that it expanded Duckett's story. And essentially is like a prequel story to the film. Now we're coming up on the official Blu-ray release of Talk to Me on October 3rd. And this is a movie I think that would do really well with its bonus features. Now, I don't think they've done any mention of what the physical release of this film will contain bonus features wise, but hopefully those prequel clips will be on there, along with a lot of behind the scenes footage. I'm sure they saw behind the scenes footage, given that they're YouTube content creators originally, so they know. I'm sure they'll be filming everything. So I think that the bonus features for this could be really cool. But yeah, when you heard this news, when you heard this news about the prequel clips, what did you think, Ben?
I was just like, dang, that is crazy.
Yeah.
It didn't say in the article what platform it was, but I'm interested in knowing what platform it was that they posted on. Probably YouTube, I'm assuming, since that's where they post most of their stuff on.
Yeah.
So I thought that was super interesting. And I showed you the steelbook that they were going to have for the Talk to Me release on.
It came with actual hand, right?
Came with all this cool stuff. And I was like, ooh, I want this.
I don't know. You want that hand, though.
I do want it.
I don't know. You actually grab that hand now. You're going to see something.
Oh, it's not real.
You don't know.
I told you, who was it? Somebody, they bought like a hand. It's blank when they bought it. It was like off Etsy or something like that. And then they like wrote stuff on it and then like
to make it look.
Right. It was like the Talk to Me hand.
That's really cool, actually.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, it's crazy that they were taking it down. So hopefully people who do get that get to see those clips, because I'm interested too in seeing what was on there. Yeah, no, absolutely.
But here's hoping that it'll be on the bonus features of the physical release coming on October 3rd. Now, our last story for today's podcast is all about Saw 10. So this is kind of a two-part story about Saw 10. So the first part of this is that a cool new poster drop for the film. It's kind of like a love letter to the Saw series, because we actually had it's a just white background poster, and on that poster there's an eyeball, a heart, and then a saw, and kind of like speaking to, you know, kind of the iconic traps or moments within the series. It's kind of a love letter to Saw as a whole. And at the bottom it says Saw 10 in theater September 29th. So very cool poster, kind of a little graphic to it as well.
Yeah.
You know, that's the nature of the Saw franchise. But the poster I thought was really cool. And just another one to get you excited about, you know, the return of John Kramer, and kind of a return to the feelings of the original trilogy. And the second part of this was that Empire, in the upcoming magazine drop, I believe it's coming out. Oh yeah, it's on newsstands right now. It's on newsstands currently, but in that magazine, they actually did they speak with the director, I want to say. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so they spoke with the director, the franchise veteran Kevin Greutert, and they just talked all about Saw 10, about the franchise, and there was some on the Empire website. They posted some excerpts from this interview from the magazine. There's some cool little tidbits in there. The biggest piece from it was the fact that they talked about how John Kramer is kind of the center of this movie's story. If you think about the other films, the other Saw films, it's told from the perspective of the victim. But he was saying that with Saw 10, it's going to be more so told from the perspective of John Kramer. We're going to be on a journey with John, and it's an emotional journey, and just kind of getting more inside of his head, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And here's a quote directly from the article, and it reads, "Kramer is the center of the story. Saw 10 is an emotional journey that you go on with John Kramer, and less a slaughterhouse that you experience from the point of view of the victims. Obviously, there will be people that can't handle it, but I think it has a good chance of appealing to people beyond gore freaks."
I thought that was so funny that he said gore freaks.
Yeah. Now he did say that, but he did go on to say, "Don't worry though, gore freaks. We're willing to bet you'll be more than catered to as well."
Yeah.
So it ain't going away. It's going to be gory as hell. But I think it's cool that they're shifting the perspective because John Kramer is such an iconic piece of the franchise, and I think they even mentioned in that talk about the most recent one, Spiral, that just did not do great. And just when you don't have that, the heart of that franchise in John Kramer there, just doesn't feel the same. And so to have a movie where we're actually going to be focused on him and kind of following him and getting more inside his mind and seeing, you know, it takes place in between Saw 1 and 2. So we'll kind of probably see, if you think about Saw 3, like it kind of starts with him already on the verge of death anyway. And Saw 2, he was kind of in that same spot. Like, dude was looking real rough. So but you know, his mind seemed very clear. So I think it'd be interesting to see his emotional journey and to kind of see what his thought was going into those films as he's building, you know, these last games and all that. I think it's gonna be really cool. I'm just super excited for it because Tobin Bell is just legendary, and I love the John Kramer character. And I think this movie's going to be really good. But what did you think, baby, when you heard about the interview, the poster, and all those things?
Oh, I really liked the poster. I was like, oh, that's super cool and creative. And then in regards to, you know, getting more with Tobin Bell's character, I thought that was really good because we don't really get to spend a lot of time with him and what, you know, the why behind everything, like what fueled everything specifically. He talks about it, but you don't really get to experience it. So I'm very much so looking forward to that. And it's good to get that insight on what the film is going to be about. So I guess I could see why he was saying why they're saying what they said about like the gore aspect is because you spend so much time with the victims in the other films, you can't help but have a gore fest.
Yep.
So what I'm taking away from this is that there's a good balance between the two. aspects of what we like about the Saw films.
Yeah. I agree 100%. It sounds like it will be a good balance. Absolutely. Now, one more thing I wanted to mention before we move on to our main topic. In that Empire excerpt, which is by Tom Nicholson, over on the Empire website, there's a part in the article where he's talking about Saw 10 and how the original Jigsaw is back. And then he goes on to say, with his inventive approach to life coaching, is back big time. I never thought of it like that, like using the term life coach, but it's kind of what he is, like using the games like life coach. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, he does. Like with everybody, right? He's teaching them a lesson.
Teaching them a lesson. He's a life coach. He's like getting them back on track, essentially. Like make sure they ain't taking life for granted.
Trying to, anyways.
Yeah, in a very crazy way, but a life coach nonetheless. But that concludes our news section, y'all. So now we're going to jump into our main topic, which is all about, ask the question: do horror movies have to be scary to be good? Stay tuned. All right, y'all. So like I said, the main topic is all about asking the question, do horror movies have to be scary to be good? Now, to kind of like set us off, right? In the horror community, we come across, whole accounts on TikTok, Twitter, or X, whatever they're calling it, Instagram, that are dedicated to just, tearing apart horror movies, especially horror movies on the fact that they don't seem scary, or they don't deem them as scary, and so therefore they aren't good horror movies. And so we're asking that question: does it have to be scary to be good? Now, what do we mean by scary, right? So when we say scary here on In Love with Horror, the way we're kind of defining that is, and kind of how these accounts look at it, is scary imagery. So think like a demon face, or a heavy on the gore. Or jump scares. So, you get the loud crashing sound, and then a face pops on the screen, or, something, falls off of a desk or something like that. So that's kind of what we're going to define as scary, because that's kind of how people who, kind of try to tear apart horror movies look at what scary is for horror movies. Now, within these accounts that have been, trying to, shit on the horror movies, a couple of movies that have come up in debates a lot about, it's not good because it's not scary, are films like, this is within the last few years, Skinamarink, Hereditary, Midsommar, Nope, and Us, and even more recently, Talk to Me. And speaking to Skinamarink, because I feel like that's one that comes up a lot, and a lot of people did not like this movie because they didn't feel like it was scary, because it didn't have really any imagery at all.
Right? I was like, I don't even see anything.
And so this, right, exactly. Yeah. And so this one is a big showcase for this topic, because it didn't have any scary imagery in it whatsoever. It was heavy on audio to make you feel uncomfortable. To kind of get under your skin. It's very audio heavy, and you never really get to see anything. Even the visuals kind of take a approach of trying to make you feel uncomfortable, because you can't tell what's going on, trying to make your mind fill in the blanks. And so people were calling it not scary because of that sheer fact. And it's just like, well, do horror films need that to be good, or to even be considered a horror movie? I don't know if there's any other film or any of these films I just listed, babe, that you want to talk about.
Well, even like, because I watched Skinamarink, but I don't want to talk about it because me and you don't agree on this movie.
Right, yeah. No,
but Talk to Me, for example, I don't think we agree on that one either, actually.
Nah. I look at Talk to Me as just being okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I
thought
it
has more to do with the plot.
Movie. But a lot of people do talk about how this movie, it's not scary at all. Like, this isn't good. Like, it's like, okay, but there's a lot of other things that make it good, even though it's not scary. And that doesn't take away the fact that it is a horror movie just because you personally didn't get scared by it.
Right.
But I guess that's the thing, right? Like, so the next point will be like that large element that we talk about horror is the scares. Like you have to have those to make it a horror movie or whatever. But Hereditary, I don't remember that one that well, actually. Maybe you could talk about that one. I know a lot of people talk about that one too.
Yeah, because Hereditary, that film is heavy on atmosphere and performance to help and circumstances to help drive home the horror elements.
Yeah.
And I'll talk about this later as we continue to go into it. Actually, no, I'll talk about that now. Actually, when it comes to like films like Hereditary, right? Because there's a lot of other elements and things that can make a horror movie good if they're not if they're not scary in the traditional sense, right? And it could be the plot. So like the circumstances surrounding it and being able to relate to those circumstances, the performances, right? I always say this in a lot of films we talk about, especially like found footage and things like that, is being able to sell, the characters' emotions that they're feeling so that the viewer can relate to them. And then of course, like the setting, the atmosphere, and then how they generally tell the story. And, you look at films like Midsommar, that's another good one that I mentioned earlier. That film, I don't think has any like scary imagery within it, right? But it's all about, putting yourself in the shoes of that character and looking at psychologically what's going on and being able to relate to that idea of like, being lost, being warped or losing your mind and, and almost being, absorbed into a cult, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that, Midsommar is one of those films that kind of call back to The Wicker Man. Like it's another one. There's no scary imagery. Right. It's all about the psychologicalness of it. And so, and I'll add this too, right? Because there's even films that aren't even traditionally considered to be horror that have horror elements in them, right? And I take a movie like Prisoners. That's a film I love by Denis Villeneuve. And that film, that's more of a mystery thriller type of film. But to me, it's borderline a horror movie because of the plot, the circumstance of what's happening, and being able to, put yourself in the shoes of Hugh Jackman's character, whose daughter was taken from him, and now how that is, even if you don't see it every step of the way, but as the movie plays out, that when he goes to sleep every night, like what he's thinking about, and how over time he falls more and more into the anger and that emotion and the desperation and the grief. Like that's horror. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's that's a very realistic horror, but a horror nonetheless. So, that all those things to say that, you don't need scary in the sense of, scary imagery, jump scares for it to be a horror movie in general and for it to be good. Because it's all about, those elements, the plot, the performances, the setting, the atmosphere, the overall story, the circumstances that help give it the horror element. You know what I'm saying?
Right. I agree.
Now, one thing we wanted to mention with this is we wanted to dive into or talk about like the subgenres of horror, right? And so how horror is looked at as a genre. And so according to the LA Film School, there are 11 subgenres of horror. There's demonic, paranormal, monster, slasher, zombie, gore, witchcraft, vampire, psychological, sci-fi, and comedic. And of course, not all of these subgenres equate to fear and scares, especially the comedic one, right? And so examples of kind of the more comedic horror films. You got films like Scary Movie. You know, it's extreme comedy, but does have, you know, moments of, you know, of horror within it. You got films like Deadstream. That's a recent one. Killer Clowns from Outer Space. The Blackening is another recent one.
Right, yeah.
You got slashers, of course, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream, Terrifier. You got like your sci-fi type of horror, Alien, Underwater, Cloverfield, even Megan is, you know, I think within that subgenre of horror. And, you know, all those films, you know, even, you know, obviously some of them do have like, you know, the scary imagery or whatever, but even within all those ideas within the subgenres, they're still good, even if they don't have the general scary imagery. But that a lot of these people online are who kind of shit on horror movies nowadays look at it as just being nothing more than jump scares and scary looking stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, next thing I wanted to point out, like being scared is relative, right? And so because of that, it can't really serve as like a defining factor when it comes to what makes this movie good. Yeah. Because, you know, there are instances of things in horror movies that are scary situations, like you already just talked about with the prisoners or whatever. Yep. And last week I talked about that movie Brightwood, and I was like, I would be scared, you know, shitless being lost in the woods. Like that's a real fear for me. So me watching a movie of people being lost in the woods is going to be a lot more scarier to someone who isn't scared of being lost in the woods.
Right.
And then too, you know, people who talk about films that got like underlying messages and social commentary and stuff like that. Like those movies aren't scary, so they're not, you know, horror or whatever. And then so I talked about, I wrote down Get Out, because that is scary, right? And the idea with Black people being used basically by white people, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a very scary thing. But to someone else, I was like, well, that's not scary. But to me, it is, because I can identify with that. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's a scary thing to me.
It's a very real horror.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
Yep. It's a very real horror. Like something you can actually, like I said before, like relate to. And that's what's so strange, you know? And I think it's just part of the content generation now, is that, you know, people don't know how to kind of like embrace a film and the emotions and put themselves in the shoes of the character to like see the horror within it. And that's a big thing with like the horror films that have those underlying messages, right? It's trying to show you in a creative way what it would be like to be a person either of a specific culture or race or, you know, socioeconomic level, whatever, you know, class system, you know, it's trying to showcase those elements. Now we see all these things, right? But that doesn't mean that, you know, we don't like the scary aspects that these people think of in horror movies. You know, of course we still like to see the traditionally scary images or the jump scares. We still like those elements, but it's all about that. Those aren't the end. That's not the end all be all. That's not what makes a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's not what makes it. Now, one thing we want to add to this, right, is, you know, because people online who are shitting on these horror movies are saying they aren't scared anymore, right? A lot of studios and creators are taking the approach that they have to do things like add the kind of dumb jump scares, add the bad sound design, and add CGI monsters and ghosts. And you know, it's super rare to have movies that don't rely on these things because people are complaining about that aspect. And it's, you know, it's films like The Conjuring, The Mist or Lake Mungo, films that are known to not have a lot of jump scares, if any at all. Like they're not made as much anymore. And, it's these type of films where you're immersed in the fear by all the other elements that are going on within it that we mentioned before. And, it's funny because this is something we even talked about. So we already recorded our Conjuring Universe ranking video that's coming here in the next couple of days. But one of the things I mentioned in that video is actually about The Conjuring 2. And I remember telling you, babe, I was like, it almost feels like there's some sort of studio presence in the film. Because you take The Conjuring 1, right? There's not a lot of jump scares. And if there are, they're very well done and not in a distasteful way. And there's no real scary imagery in it. We got, most of it is very human based.
Yeah.
Even the villain of that film was just a human who was a witch who was just evil as hell. You know what I'm saying? And she just looks, evil. You know what I mean? And, that movie is very grounded. It's very relatable. And it's the emotion and the performance and you putting yourself in the shoes of that family being like, man, imagine if I was if my family had to go through that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then you go to The Conjuring 2 and kind of some of the things we were mentioning exist in that film. We got the cheap jump scares. Like that's the part when the fire truck rolls up to the kid's bedroom door, right? And it rests there for like 3 seconds. And then it goes, the violin sound off. And I was just like, and I jumped, but it was just because it was so loud. It wasn't because it was scary. Right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I was just like, well, that was dumb because nothing even happened besides it rolled up and then it pauses for like a couple seconds and then it goes, and then you got like the Crooked Man who was like a full fantastical CGI element, and so like, it's those kind of elements that almost feel like the studio was like, hey, you like, first of all, The Conjuring is a hit. You got to add those things in because that's what people want. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because it's not scary enough, quote unquote.
But that's wrong.
Yeah. It's just like, nah, man. Like that's not the right approach. We want story in our horror films. We want emotion in our horror films. We don't just need something to look scary.
Right.
The horror can just be within anything in life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Right. Whether it be supernatural or not.
Yeah. Because I think that's the one of the notes I wrote about The Conjuring, right? It's like, it's not trying to be scary. It just is scary. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, but a lot of stuff now is like, you can tell it's trying to scare you. And it's like, you don't got to do all that.
Right. That's a good point. I like the way you said that. Like a movie that you can tell is trying to be scary. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I like how you said that. It's like, oh, we're trying to. And it's when like
I kind of think about like the boogeyman, for example. You can tell in that movie like they're trying to be scary, but they're not executing it very well.
It's like the idea, exactly. And I don't know if this would apply to this film, but I do agree that there's elements of the boogeyman where you can tell that they're just trying to be scary. But I think of it like a studio or a creator who thinks of scares first and then thinks of like a plot that could work around those. Sometimes that's what it could feel like. Yeah. Especially when the story is like really weak. It's like, no, build a clear story first. Build the characters first. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And build out that. And the scares will kind of fall in place naturally within all the elements of the performance, the atmosphere, the setting, and the story. And it almost feels like a lot of times they have these, like, they list out ideas of the type of scares they can do before they even have a clear, character development path and a clear,
that
story
might be
path.
How they do it.
It might, because it be feeling like that sometimes,
I think that's a good point.
It'd be feeling like that sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, man. Like to hear people kind of going ham on movies that are so excellent. And it's sheerly off of the fact that they don't have scary imagery and stuff like that. It's disappointing. And I know you and I have both seen it. And that's why we kind of felt like it'd be an interesting main topic to talk about.
Yeah.
Do horror movies have to be scary to be good? And they don't have to be. Not in the sense of scary imagery and jump scares. But babe, did you have any final thoughts that you wanted to speak on for this topic?
Not really. Kind of say what I had to say, but I do want to say that it works both ways, right? Like, so there are movies that might have scary scenes or whatever, right? But they're not good. Mm-hmm. Like, what is it? No, Annabelle. Was it Annabelle? Yeah. To me, there were some scary moments.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I didn't really like that movie. It wasn't that great. Yeah. So it goes both ways. It can go either way, right? Just because it's not scary doesn't mean it's not good. And just because it's good doesn't mean it's scary or whatever. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's actually a good example of
final thoughts for you.
Yeah, the Annabelle is actually a good example of a moment where I actually liked the demon thing in there because it looked scary. You know what I'm saying? And so like that's that's one of the ones where I can appreciate because it fits the story. You know what I mean? Because she's being affected by a demon. You know what I'm saying? So that imagery kind of fits it. It's not a situation of like, having it's like a CGI face pop up like some Curse of La Llorona type stuff. But so that's a good example. But no, only final thoughts, honestly, in the conclusion is that, a horror movie doesn't have to be just all about, scary imagery and jump scares. It can be about, how you feel, how you perceive, and all the elements within the performances, the atmosphere, all of those other elements, just the general story and being able to relate and relate to the experience. And, I think that's kind of what it's all about. But it's all about story first before any of the other things.
There you go.
Yep. But, that's what we think about the main topic, y'all. But we asked our listeners, our viewers.
Yeah, let us know.
What do you think about this main topic? Do you think that for horror movies to be good, that it has to have those what they deem as scary elements, like scary imagery, jump scares? Do you think a horror movie needs those things to be considered a horror movie or to be considered good? Let us know down in the comments below because we would love to discuss that with y'all. But with that, y'all, that actually concludes this episode of In Love with Horror. Thank y'all so much for listening all the way through. If you made it this far. Make sure that you are subscribed and following us on everything, y'all. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple to the podcast, make sure you're following us on there. Make sure you go follow us on our social media channels. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, TikTok, IG, everything, y'all, because we do great content on those. We already mentioned it earlier in the podcast. Of course, we got some cool content coming up very soon. And within the next couple of days, we're going to have our the Conjuring Universe ranked video up. We're going to have some movie reactions coming, and then we're even going to be doing a Saw movie ranked video as well. So make sure you're subscribed, y'all, because we got some dope stuff coming. And but yeah, hey, thank y'all so much for listening. And one more thing, make sure y'all rate us. Rate us on those podcast apps, y'all, because that just helps us give us more visibility and support. But again, hey, look, thank y'all. Hope y'all had a good time with this episode. This was a great one, and make sure you comment, man. We'd love to discuss all this stuff with y'all. And with that, this has been In Love with Horror, and we'll see y'all in the next video, or the next podcast. Peace.